Welcome to everybody who is joining us on the call this evening, and the bells are tolling behind me. I'm sitting in the Civic Centre and I really want to welcome all of you to our winter conference. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Mary Darcy. I'm the Executive Director for Communities, Culture and Homes, and I'm going to be your MC for the evening. So I'm not going to take very long, but we've got a few housekeeping matters just to go through before we crack on. So you will have seen the signal that came up on your screen to say that we're recording the session. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can then put this on our website and share it with everybody who hasn't been able to join us this evening. So I hope that everybody's okay with that. Secondly, we have got a really jam-packed agenda, so we are unlikely to have time to take questions. However, if you have any questions to any of the speakers this evening, please do put them into the chat. We will ensure that we get responses out to those questions after the conference. Now, I'm looking to Lexa to make sure I haven't missed anything in terms of my introduction. We have got a very busy agenda, and I'm going to therefore hand straight over to our first speaker this evening. A warm welcome, please, to our Cabinet Member for Housing and the Green Environment, Councillor Lisa Mitchell.
Just to mention as well that the conference is being recorded, and if anybody would like to wouldn't like to see their faces, they can switch the video now.
So has Councillor Mitchell joined us, Lexa?
I am here. Someone needed to unmute me.
Okay.
I to unmute myself, which I think is wise. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening, and thank you very much for inviting me to come and speak to you again. It was really great to meet so many of you at the Summer Housing Conference earlier this year and hear about the great work that tenants were doing to support each other and improve their local communities. And since then, I've been out and about across the city talking to people from the Channel Islands estate in the west to Thornhill in the east, and everywhere in between, so that I can really understand what it is people would like to see improved. But equally as important, what people love about the area they live in too, because I think it's really important to hear the positives, of which I'm sure there are many, and I've heard about the many positives over the last few months. I was particularly impressed after meeting some of our junior wardens recently who had raised hundreds of pounds for Second Chance Animal Rescue Sanctuary in Mansbridge. That was a particular highlight of the last few months. We got to go up to Mansbridge and hand in that cheque that the junior wardens raised. So that was, as I said, a real highlight of the last few months for me. We got to see lots of dogs and cats as well, which didn't help. I wanted to take them all home. Through these conversations, I know that we've got much more work to do to make sure that the aspirations both you and we have for council housing and neighbourhoods in the city are realised. And I know that that's always going to be a top priority for our Labour administration. And our priorities as a Labour council remain the same as I outlined in the summer. We want to improve the housing we already have, with a focus on making existing homes more energy efficient, so that in the longer term we can keep bills as low as possible no matter what is going on nationally. And we also remain committed to building new council homes, with the next stage of the council delivered part of Townhill Park going out to engagement shortly. So we're pushing ahead with those priorities. However, you don't need me to tell you that we're facing increasingly difficult times and a really difficult national context. The chaos we've seen from the Conservative government nationally has made every decision we're making as a council much more difficult, and the uncertainty that we're facing and the huge rise in costs unfortunately doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. I think this is reflected in some of the difficult decisions we're facing. and the proposals in the latest budget and HRA consultation, unfortunately, particularly some of the increases in energy costs we're facing as a council with no extra government support, unfortunately. And as well as delivering on the priorities that I outlined, obviously, one of the main focuses is that we've got to make sure that what we're doing with council housing is sustainable over the long term, so that we can continue to provide it for years to come. Because if it's not sustainable, we're not going to have these homes, and we're not going to be able to provide as a landlord for the long term, for decades to come. And as I mentioned in the summer, I know how important it is to have that housing and not lose that housing, and to have the council housing in the city that we have, because I've experienced the security that comes with being offered a home to call my own for as long as possible. With all this being said, I personally have no doubt that there are better days around the corner, and that over the long term, despite the sort of rolling chaos that the country is facing nationally, that as a Labour council, we will deliver on our promises to you and to all of those people across the city who still need a decent and affordable home. And as I said at the summer conference, my promise is always to come and listen to you and answer questions. So I know a few of you have had emails from quite a few of you. And as I said, I've been out to various estates across the city. I'm always happy to do that. So if you want to get in touch with me and have me come along, have me walk about your area, I'm more than happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Mitchell. And we're keeping to time, so this is fantastic for the beginning of the conference. So I'd like to introduce now Jason Murphy, our Stronger Communities Manager, to introduce himself and to say a little bit about the work of the team that he leads.
Hello. Michael, can I just check, am I able to share? Brilliant. So I'm Jason Murphy, I'm Stronger Communities Manager. I sit within what is currently Mary's area of the council, work very closely with Housing as a Consequence and the tenant engagement team, who many of you know very well, sit within Stronger Communities. I thought it was timely that I introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me. I'm a Southampton man and boy. I've lived here all my life. I grew up in council tenancies. I was hoping to show you the place I grew up in, Turner Crescent. Some of you might know about Turner Crescent back in the day. Montague Avenue, I lived there too in the flats, just above the shops. Got stuck in the stairwell when there was a wasp when I was very small. But anyway, that's a story for another day. And eventually I moved over to Greywell Avenue in Aldermore. So, you know, my entire childhood was in council housing in Southampton, which, you know, I valued and benefited from. Today, I just wanted to introduce you in terms of my role, working with the tenant engagement team and our community engagement officers. It's really important for us this year that we not only increase the number of tenant engagement opportunities, so the number of panels, the number of groups that are running, that we also work with some of our children and young people to get involved. That's really important for us, not just our junior neighbourhood wardens, but actually having a voice as tenants themselves. But also younger tenants in terms of getting involved in some of the groups that I know work very well, and supporting them to work with you. So you that have been doing this for some time can support them to maybe pick up the reins and create a bit of sustainability there. I'm also really interested in tackling community safety, so antisocial behaviour that many of us experience wherever we live, but thinking particularly about you as tenants, the experiences that you have. What can we do to hear your voices and make sure that senior leaders within the police, criminal justice services within the council are thinking quite seriously about what we need to do. We hear a lot about things like 101 and struggles with reporting. So having your insights is really helpful, but also helping you to report those things where you can, so that we can help the police build a case for more resource where it's needed. So a lot in what I've said. If you want to chat to me or you've got any ideas, I'll drop my email in the chat, or colleagues can do that for you. I'm an open book. I'm always here. and I'm happy to come out and speak and talk to you. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. The area that Jason didn't mention that also sits within his team is our domestic abuse team, our independent domestic violence advocates. And Jason is one of the key strategic leaders within the council for our work around domestic abuse and violence against women and girls. And we know that during COVID, domestic abuse did rise in some of our estates, and there were some challenges. And I want to thank the many of you and many of our staff who supported people who were experiencing domestic abuse during that time, because we know that there were some particular challenges that were met head on by tenants and by our neighbourhood wardens and our housing management teams. And you may know that Southampton City Council was one of the first authorities to be DAHA accredited, that's Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance accreditation. So Jason's team also leads in that area, and if it's something that you're interested in, please do get in touch with him. We're about to adopt a new domestic abuse and violence against women and girls strategy before Christmas. We've been consulting on it for quite some time. So it's another area, if it's of interest to you, please do get in touch with Jason. So I hope you don't mind me just popping that in there, Jason, because I know it's something you and your team are very passionate about. So moving away from Jason's area, we're going to move into the financial situation. And Councillor Mitchell heralded earlier when she did her introduction that we are in a very challenging landscape. And I think many of you have met Kevin before. He was here for our last winter conference. So Kevin is our finance business partner. Welcome, Kevin. Kevin's going to take us through the challenges that we're facing at the moment and the proposals that Councillor Mitchell mentioned earlier. And then later on, we will move on to some of the other areas of interest around rent and repairs and planned maintenance and capital work. So Kevin, thank you very much for coming this evening, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Mary. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kevin Harlow, Finance Business Partner for Southampton City Council, and within my remit is to lead on housing finances. I thought I would start the presentation with a quick recap on what the housing revenue account is and what it means. The housing revenue account is effectively a ring-fenced account that we are required to keep under government legislation. Into that ring-fenced account will go all of the income that we receive from tenants' rents and service charges. And that pot will then pay for land such as the repairs and maintenance on all of our buildings. And it covers things like tenant engagement, housing management, and the investment costs associated with investing in the housing stock. What the wide services, so things like domestic waste collection, adult social care, children's services, education and the like. The primary reason that we do keep this separate is that we don't want council tenants paying twice for certain services, and at the other end of the spectrum we don't want council taxpayers paying housing services for which they do need it. In terms of what has been happening this financial year, for those of you who were on last year's call, you'll recall that we were presenting an HRA budget in the context of a rental freeze for 22-23, and at that time we were looking at making savings to accommodate that rent freeze. And we did do a lot of sensitivity work around the risks associated with the rent freeze, but I think it's probably fair to say that we didn't forecast war in Europe and some of the other international and national contexts that we're now facing. In terms of what that is meaning for the HRA this financial year, what we're seeing is significant increases in materials costs. This essentially started as we came out of the pandemic recovery back in February, March time, where demand for materials was far outstripping the supply and pushing prices up. We've seen that cost pressure continuing, particularly for those materials that are quite energy intensive to produce. And the reality is that we're seeing increases of between 12 and 20% for materials. That has quite a significant impact on our day-to-day maintenance budgets, but it also has the impact of inflating our capital programme for projects such as wall structures, roofing, insulation materials, doors and windows and the like. We've also not been immune to energy price inflation. The increases that we've seen this year have ranged from about 88% for electricity, 150% for gas. And we need that energy to run things like communal lighting, the lifts and that sort of thing. And to put that into some sort of context, in the normal year up until this year, our energy costs would have been around about £700,000 to £800,000 a year. This year, we're projecting them to exceed £1.5 million. We're also seeing wider inflationary pressures. The CPI inflation in September was running at just over 10%. That is impacting on our general supplies and services budgets. And it is also putting significant pressure on salary inflation this year and likely next year as well. Now, we've just seen no pay award agreed that equates to about 5% across the HRA salary budget. As if all of that wasn't enough, we're also seeing significant interest and borrowing cost volatility this year. And again, in context, we started the year with long-term borrowing rates at about 3%. By the summer, they crept up to about 3.5%. And we then had the government's mini budget at the end of September and the subsequent reactions in the financial markets. And that saw borrowing costs increase to a peak of about 6% in the middle of October and subsequently dropping back to about 4.5%. And since then, we've also seen an increase in the government's, in the Bank of England's base rate. We're expecting further increases in December and ongoing into 23-24. While that doesn't have an immediate impact on the HRA this year, what it does mean is that any decisions that we take around capital investment now will impact over the next 20, 30, 40 years. Ultimately, this has generated pressures in this year of around about £3 million. We are expecting those pressures to be ongoing and increasing into 23, 24 and beyond. So we're in the position that we have had to make significant savings this year in order to maintain our working balances and also to reduce pressure on rental increases going forwards. Next slide, please. And in terms of service planning for the HRA going forwards, the main thrust of our business planning activity this year has been to build in the inflationary pressures that we're currently seeing. We have had to make some difficult decisions around the assumptions that we make going forwards. It's always a very difficult balance that if we overestimate inflation, we could put ourselves in a position where we have to make savings beyond what may necessarily be required. But then if we undercut them, we are effectively storing up problems for the future. So we are looking at the projections from the Bank of England in terms of inflation, but we're also making assumptions around energy prices that we expect them to stabilise, but we're not making any assumptions about further significant increases or decreases at the moment. In essence, in those inflationary pressures leaves us very little wiggle room to actually put any investment into the HRA this year. The one area where we are investing is around debt recovery into managing the existing arrears that are increasing at the moment, and also to ensure that tenants have the support that they need as the cost of living crisis starts to bite. We're also looking at actions to mitigate against those inflationary pressures. We are looking at rent proposals and service charge proposals, which I'll cover over the next few slides. And we're also looking at every area of non-essential spend and reviewing whether we actually need to make that expenditure, what impact that then has on service provision, and whether we can make savings on that basis. We are looking at reprioritising our capital programme in the context of increasing borrowing costs. And we are also reviewing all of our technical calculations for things like depreciation, for bad debt provisions, and for corporate overhead recharge and that sort of thing to ensure that they remain sensible in the context of increasing costs. Next slide, please. In terms of rent proposals for 23-24, the government guidelines up until this point would have allowed us to increase rent by a maximum of CPI plus 1%. In September, CPI was running at 10.1%, which in theory would have allowed a maximum rent increase of 11.1%. However, in the background over the last few months, the government have been consulting with local authorities and other housing providers on potential rent caps for 2023-24 and potentially also 24-25. And the consultation recently closed. The feedback that we provided as a council, along with other authorities, was that the proposals around capping rent at 3% would effectively mean significant and deep cuts. It would put at risk objectives around achieving zero carbon. It would put things like fire safety investment at risk. Conversely, at the other end of the scale, virtually every authority that responded considered 11% to be excessive. And in the absence of any government cap, the general consensus would be around increases of around 8%. The contents of the government proposal at the moment are unknown. We're expecting a response fairly soon and probably likely as part of the November government budgets. Our working assumption at the moment is that the cap will probably come in at around 5%, and that there will be no further mitigation in that context. As a result of that, in the budget consultations that Southampton are engaging in at the moment, we are consulting on rent increases up to, but not beyond, any proposed government cap. Now, next slide, please. In terms of landlord-controlled heating charges, as I said in an earlier slide, Southampton has not been immune to increasing energy costs. And based on what we have seen, with electricity up 88% and gas at 150%, we are now anticipating a deficit on our landlord-controlled heating account of £3.7 million. And that is frankly an absolutely scary number. As an authority, we have done our best to protect tenants as far as we possibly can from the impact of that, and no proposals to increase the charges mid-year have been brought forward. However, you don't need to be financially astute to see that that is not a sustainable situation for us, in that we are going to have to make some substantial increases to the charges for next year. As to where we pitch those charges has been the subject of a lot of debate. But what we are ultimately proposing to do is to increase charges as far as possible in line with the government energy caps that are announced back in September. That is the £2,500 for the average household. And reflecting the fact that we are charging for heating only, and that shouldn't be reflective of the whole energy bill. The impact that has on charges is on the slide there for you to see. What I will say is that this will hopefully bring costs under control for next year. What it doesn't do is clear the deficit that we currently have built up. And if we were to tackle both at the same time, potentially we'd be looking at increases beyond 220%. Unless energy prices dramatically fall next year, we will still need to make further difficult decisions around this. Next slide, please. In terms of service charges for 23-24, the proposal that we are putting forward at this stage is to increase the service charges by an inflationary amount of 9%. The impact that has on charges is there on the slides, and that is effectively representative of the cost increases that we are currently seeing at the moment. I think probably I'm coming up to the end of my 15-minute slot, so I will end the presentation there. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me, and I can only apologise that it's doom and gloom in the finance world at the moment and that I can't bring any better news. But thank you anyway, and I'll appreciate your comments and feedback in the chat. Thank you.
Kevin, thank you very much. I do understand it's a difficult message to be providing. What I should say to colleagues and people who've joined us for the conference this evening, the council has launched its public consultation on the budget measures today. I will find the link and I will post it into the chat if people would like to have that, but it is available on the Southampton City Council website. So if you want to provide separate feedback via that route, please do so. And I'll make sure that the information is in the chat this evening. And if you go to our website, you will be able to find it there as well. So Kevin, thank you very much for your comprehensive overview of where we are at the moment. And I'm going to hand over now to Mark, who is our Housing Operations Manager. Please introduce yourself, Mark, and I know you've got a fair amount to take the team through. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Mary, and welcome to everybody here this evening. I know a number of you already know me, but for those who don't, I'm Mark Mullen, Housing Operations Manager. I lead our in-house contractor team that do the maintenance of council houses across the city, as well as maintenance to public buildings and libraries, car parks, and a range of properties throughout the city. So next slide. So whilst this evening I'm going to be talking about our repairs service, I just felt it was also helpful just to outline some of the kind of work that we do as an in-house delivery team. So yes, we do around about 5 million of repairs each year, but also spending 70 million on empty properties as well per annum. We carry out gas safety and electrical safety work of around about 2 million per annum. And we also do large major planned works as well of roughly about 7 million per annum, and that's growing. So we're going to be doing more, another 5 million on top of that in future years, which is good news from a, improving tenant properties. And the kind of things we do, kitchen and bathroom replacements, fire safety work that was mentioned earlier about the investment. We've been doing quite a lot of that in recent years and have more to do over the coming years. Window and door replacements, aids adaptations is a growing piece of work we're doing. We've doubled the amount of work that we're delivering through aids adaptations, loft insulation, just to mention some of the planned works. But we also do work on non-housing properties as well, that's schools, public buildings, etc. And we spend around about 3 million in that kind of work each year. We have a materials and logistics part of our delivery, which help to support the work that we do. So it includes materials of at least 4 million per annum, and we have a partnership with Travis Perkins, and I'll come on to that as one of my last slides of just some of the added benefits that we get through that partnership. So one of our objectives for delivering our repair service, that we could do that in a more cost-effective way, is that we use a key performance indicator, and some of the measures that we measure our performance is, increasing the number of repairs that we complete right first time. We're reducing the average cost of responsive repairs, reducing the waiting times for repairs and increasing customer satisfaction, and enabling tenants to report repairs and change their repair appointments online. So those are just some of those headings. And here is our current performance across those categories. And I'm showing the performance over the last 2 or 3 years, so you can see what our journey has been like. So our average repair cost at the moment for this current year is £140. And as you can see, that is much higher than previous years. And in 2018, we set a target of £97. That's a very challenging target. Now, I put in brackets here 2022. Actually, when you adjust that £97 to current inflation, rising costs, etc., it is actually more like £108. So for our repairs, we're splitting that into 2 parts, minor repairs and major repairs. And when I do that, you can see that actually the repair cost that's affecting our overall average cost of £140 is our major repairs. So we've seen an increase over the last 2 or 3 years of major repairs, and they are reflecting where we got properties that are needing more than just a simple repair. These are repairs that are over £1,000. And this is what we use to help our colleagues in property. And I know I've got colleagues here this evening going to be talking about planned works. Well, this kind of information that we gather around our major repairs and what kind of major repairs is what we share with our colleagues. And they have been adjusting their planned investments so that in the future, we will start to see some of these major repairs beginning to come down in costs. Satisfaction surveys have been a real challenge for us, and in previous years we have gathered information, but over the last 6 to 9 months we've seen quite a dramatic decline in number of surveys returned. So we're looking at ways in which we can improve that going forward. So hopefully we can start to get more surveys come back telling us about what tenants think about the quality of our repairs. The good thing is that we are managing to maintain our customer appointments. I mean, that's despite the challenges that we've had over the last couple of years and even the last 12 months with COVID, etc. Nevertheless, we are still managing to maintain a high percentage of repair appointments being kept. The next category is repairs completed first time, first time. Sadly, that is lower than where we want it to be at 78%, but that is simply because we are doing more major repairs. If you can imagine, when we're turning up, we're not able to do a lot of these repairs right first time because they're not a minor repair. We're having to replace fascias, soffits, gutters, downpipes. Well, as you can appreciate, we wouldn't be carrying those kind of materials on our vans, and we're not going to be able to complete those in one day on that first visit. So again, our colleagues are increasing planned investment, and so in time we expect to see this improve and do more repairs right first time. The call centre take a lot more calls over the last 12 months. That has dramatically increased, and that's consequently increased the waiting times. The good thing is our call centre have provided a new facility which enables tenants to choose for a callback. So it means that tenants don't have to wait for 50 minutes. They just indicate they want a call back, and then the call centre will always call back that person. So it means that they're not waiting for 50 minutes. Next slide, please. So there are some real challenges for us in improving our performance on those areas that I've just shown you. And as Kevin has mentioned in his finance report, we are faced with, and you will know this anyway without me saying this, but it is a challenge for us that our material costs and our fuel costs for our vans driving to do these repairs has increased. The increase in major repairs has impacted our average repair costs and our ability to do right first time. The longer timescales for completing repairs is a direct result of having to do a lot more major repairs. So more of our repairs are taking 2 to 3 months before we can actually complete those. But that is very common for major repairs. If you imagine replacing fascias and soffits and gutters, you know, we got to arrange the materials and then carry out that work. It is taken longer. The level of repairs that are coming in, phoned in, are doubled within the last 12 months. So that has had a knock-on effect with the call waiting times. The repair requests submitted online is increased by over 1,000 per month. So it's quite a significant amount of communication with repairs, and our call center team are really doing a fabulous job handling those and responding to those. So despite that, we are managing to turn around repairs as quickly as we can. Trades and staff are needing to use up accumulated holiday. You know, we had a really tough period, a couple of years of COVID, which restricted the work that we were doing, going into people's homes. And so trades carried on working when they were due to have a holiday. And so some of that holiday has been delayed to this year. So we've had an added challenge this year with some of those staff and trades catching up on the holiday. Nevertheless, we are still delivering your repairs within the timescales that we've got set for our repairs. We've got a challenge of high level of manual processes, and here we've got some improvements that we're putting in place. So yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. So we are putting in place some improvements to help improve our performance. Digital is a thing of today and tomorrow. It's what we are looking to put in place to improve on some of the manual processes that takes up a lot of our time. Also, the current processes forces us to have extra staff. So digital solutions are going to help us to reduce the amount of temporary staff that we have to employ. It enables us to be able to do more work. If we can spend more time being more efficient at what we do, then it gives us greater ability to do more work and do more work right first time. We're looking at improving the interface between our systems that we use in housing operations with our colleagues in property, for example. So we can tell them all the doors that we're replacing, all the kitchens that we're replacing. It means they can update their database of the assets and information around assets and the decisions they make and how much they need to invest and when. So these are really important solutions that we're putting in place. We're looking to improve. We've already got texting in place for tenants. We want to improve on that. So we've got some more work that we're going to be doing around technology. Improving the notice. So we already give notice to tenants, but we want to give even more of that in the future, and hopefully increase tenants' ability to change their appointments. We're looking to improve our logistics as well using technology so we can improve our performance, but we're also looking to adjust our van stock so we can increase the number of repairs we complete right first time. We're automating our ordering system for our trades so they don't have to be processing that manually in the future. And creating more supply chain locations with our material suppliers so we can make more of our materials more available for our trades and enable them to be able to complete repairs right first time. So we're also increasing the planned maintenance programs. That's something I mentioned already. There's been a significant increase in the amount of planned maintenance programs. That's going to help us over the next 5 years to reduce our ad hoc major repairs and then enable our trades to do more repairs right first time and reduce the waiting times that you're currently experiencing for repairs. The call centre are devoting more time to bringing in more call handlers, to taking all of these extra calls that are coming in and then hopefully reducing the waiting times. We're reviewing the types of calls that are coming in to see if there are different ways in which we can improve our repairs and reduce the need for tenants to have to call through or to email. We're adjusting our allocation of time on our jobs because these repairs are taking longer. It means then the time that we've already got in our diaries are too short. So we're looking to increase those times so we can actually get a repair done right first time. As I mentioned, we got a callback facility which avoids the need for tenants to have to wait on the phone to get their phone answered. They'll get that call back at a convenient time and they can be always sure that they're going to get that call back. Next slide. And so the last thing I just want to share with you, so you've heard a lot about increasing costs and how that's affecting what we do. Well, the good news is we do a lot of work around behind the scenes with partners like Travis Perkins, and we've managed to get an arrangement in place for you as tenants, which means that from the 1st of November, you can go to a Travis Perkins outlet and benefit from unique discounts for you as tenants that only you, the tenants, and also your family and friends can benefit from. We're keeping it simple. You don't have to apply for a card or a voucher. All that you need to do is turn up at a Travis Perkins outlet and quote the number that's on the screen here, LL88877, and you can benefit from discounts of at least 10% on top of other discounts that are already there at that store. So this is a good news for you when you're hearing a lot of increased costs. Here's a way of being able to reduce your costs. You always want to do DIY around the home in different ways. Here's a way of reducing the costs of doing that through our existing Travis Perkins material supplier. So I'd like to finish on a good note, and I hope you find that is a welcome message for you. So that's it for my presentation this evening. Thank you for being patient. I hope you find that really informative. You can have a copy of this if you want this to look at. I can send that, arrange for that to be sent to you. If you've got any comments, any questions at all, please put them in the chat and we'll make sure that you get a response to those. Thank you for being patient and thank you for listening to me this evening.
Mark, thank you very much. Really comprehensive. I think it just shows how we are still managing that post-COVID kind of environment, and also the fact that, you know, as Kevin outlined, that the challenges that the service are trying to handle in terms of the costs and the prices as they're going up, but also the needs of meeting all of those repair liabilities. So thank you very much. And just to say, everybody, the presentations will all be on the website, so you will be able to access them. Now, we're going to have to skip over the planned maintenance and capital spending presentation for now. Unfortunately, David is having some IT problems and isn't able to get in. So Michael, if you can skip on to Linda's presentation, we're in touch with David. We're trying to help him to get back in. So Linda, you're going to be up a bit sooner than you anticipated. I'm hoping you're still here, because I can't see your name on the screen now. Linda? I don't know, I feel like I'm at a seance asking people if they are here. So it looks like Linda may have been bounced out as well. She was here earlier, definitely saw her.
I'm here. I'm here.
Fantastic.
I was just, you know, shocked.
Absolutely. So Linda, welcome. I think
this
is this your first time at one of our conferences? So
it is, yes.
So please introduce yourself. Let the team know who you are, what you're up to. Linda is an absolute star in our waste and recycling team, and very, very passionate about only putting bottles in the recycling, plastic recycling. And Linda will come on to that, I am sure. I have learned a lesson from Linda. So over to you, Linda. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Like I say, my name's Linda Bratcher. I'm the waste disposal and development manager at Southampton City Council, new in post this year. I work alongside operations, so I don't manage the bin men or bin people, shall we say. I work alongside the waste operations team, and my role with my team that I'm building is to try and educate the city to recycle and manage their waste better. So next slide, please. So tonight I'm going to give you an overview of how, as a council, we get rid of your waste, because obviously you all go shopping, you buy stuff, and then you finish with it, and it's like you put it in your bin, and I think that's the end of what you think about it. You know, you probably don't even concern you where it goes. But anyway, so I thought I'd give you an overview of where it actually goes. And so you can see the journey that everything of something that you throw in your bin. We work with Portsmouth City Council and Hampshire County Council, and our waste goes into a Hampshire Waste Partnership contract. And Hampshire have got 11 district councils as Portsmouth and ourselves, and in Hampshire we've got 185 million people's waste to get rid of. So, you know, when you're looking at your 1 or 2 bags every week outside your house, just think of that times by that amount of residents. So, yeah, thank you. All right, so we've got 140 frontline staff. They run 36 rounds a day, 180 rounds a week, and we operate alternative weekly collections in Southampton. So it's residual 1 week, which residual is your black bag waste, so the things that are non-recyclable. And then we have a recycling the week after. And in recycling, the only things we can put through the waste contract are paper, clean paper, card, tins, aluminium tins or tin tins, and plastic bottles only, and aerosols. Glass bottles and jars go in a separate bin. But our services also include garden waste, which is a fortnightly paid for service, and bulky waste, which is on demand paid for services. We start in the east of the city collection, and we work our way over from the east to the west, and that's our waste service, and we operate well 6 days a week at the moment, but yeah, we also have the bulky waste, like I say, collections for large items, but you've got to phone and ask for that. So next slide, please. So in 2021, the census came out and said there's 249,000 residents in Southampton, all creating waste. They live in 109,000 homes. If your waste is in the correct bin at the right time, in the right place, you know, we will do our utmost to collect it. One of the problems is that a lot of people don't put the right waste in the right bin at the right time. And so our recycling, for the latest figures, are that we only send about 27.5% of our waste for recycling. So we're putting recycling into the general waste, and we're not maximising our recycling. In fact, we're ranked near the bottom of the recycling league table in the country, 317th out of 338. So we're pretty low. Southampton's also one of the worst contaminators of recycling in Hampshire, and it's, you know, we turn, or the waste disposal contract turns about nearly 1 in 4 of our trucks away every day at the waste station, saying it's got contaminated recycling in it. So they don't actually turn it away and we go and have to dump it somewhere else. They turn it away and we have to pay extra to have it processed. So some of the rounds in Southampton are have got 25%, less than 2 or 3%, but some of the rounds are 36%. Okay. The waste disposal goes through the waste disposal contract, as I said, with Hampshire. There's some pictures here. You've got the Marchwood Energy Recovery Facility, which is the big dome that you see over. I'm pointing at it because I'm actually near there, which I know you don't know where I am, but I'm actually pointing at the dome at the moment. We've also got household waste recycling centres in Southampton. There's 24 in Hampshire that you can all use, but you have to register on Hampshire's online for that. But the one at City Depot, which is in Millbrook, we have no booking service at that recycling centre, so you can come and drop off your household recycling. We operate every day except Christmas Day, Boxing Day and New Year's Day, and it's free for household waste recycling, not for commercial, but for household waste. We run winter hours at the moment, and there's summer hours. It's all on the website, our opening hours, but yeah, that's a place to bring your household waste that perhaps won't fit in your bin, or if you're doing a big clear out. Once our waste goes through the contract, we either put it to energy recovery, so we burn it, or we recycle it. So black bag waste is it goes to be burnt, and with 3 energy recovery facilities in Hampshire, and anything, like I say, that's unsuitable for recycling, that you the resident haven't split out in your recycling bins, will go to be burnt, and that power generates electricity, and it also allows us not to have to landfill, and the bottom ash that comes out of the burn-ins from the energy recovery facilities is used in things like road maintenance. So things go in, they're burnt, they're separated, and then they're moved to different markets. So next slide, please. This is a picture of the Portsmouth Energy Recovery Site recovery facility. I don't know if any of you have ever been down to Portsmouth to see it. It is an operation in itself, and you would think it'd be really smelly and awful, but it's super clean. It's an amazing place. So next slide, please. So what happens is bin man picks up your rubbish, takes it to a transfer station or a tipping station in a bin lorry. It's put in bays, and then the big Veolia lorry, which is the contract we're under, then takes it to the energy recovery facility, drops it off and puts it in lots of bays. Then next slide, please. A big grabber, like, you know, when you go to a fun fair and you've got a machine and you put it's probably about 20 pence now, £2. You put your money in and a big hand comes over and grabs the cuddly toy and then drops it into the opening for you to claim your prize. Well, it's kind of the same in the energy recovery bunker. A big, massive grabber picks up your rubbish and puts it onto the incinerator to be burnt. Very, very hot, and you'd think very smelly, but actually, no, it's not. So it's burnt at a very high temperature. All the outcomings, the incinerations are all tested by the Environment Agency. What you see coming out of the energy recovery chimney is steam, it's not smoke, so it's monitored very, very carefully. Next slide, please. So if you've not sent your rubbish to general waste and it's recycling, there are 2 materials recycling facilities in Hampshire, but because of the contract which was set up a long time ago when life was different, we can only at the moment recycle 6 items in your recycling. Even though a product might say recyclable on it, a little label on a yogurt pot that says I'm recyclable, we cannot collect it in Southampton. The only things we can collect are plastic bottles, paper and card, clean paper and card, food tins, drink cans and aerosols, and also clean food tins, please, because if you have a can of baked beans and don't wash it out and then put it in your recycling with some nice clean paper, all the bean juice gets all over the paper, makes the paper unusable for recycling, so you're contaminating it. So but all Hampshire councils collect the same 6 materials. So whether you live in Winchester or at Curbside, all Hampshire councils collect the same 6 materials for recycling that go through the contract. They might have some different recycling options to their residents, but these are the only things that go through the contract: plastic bottles, paper, cardboard, food tins and drink cans and aerosols. If anything else is found in your recycling, that is rejected and it contaminates the rest of the recycling. So if you've got 6 people in your block of flats that are all recycling right, and then another household decides to put dirty nappies in that recycling bin, I'm afraid all your recycling efforts have gone to waste. So it's basically we've all got to work together to you know, do recycling right. So I always say, is it plastic? Yes or no? Is it bottle shaped? Yes or no? If the answer is no to either of the above, then it does not, I'm afraid, go into your recycling bin at the moment. And I'll come on to the future in a minute. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the tipping. As you can see, waste is collected in these big trucks and then just tipped at the recycling facility. Next slide, please. It goes into a series of conveyor belts and it's sorted. There's also hand pickers at recycling facilities. So you can imagine that's not a very nice job. And when you think it should all be clean, dry recycling, and it should be those 6 targeted materials, the pickers are picking out needles, they're picking out batteries, they're picking out wet paper, they're picking out nappies, yogurt pots, some pretty gross things. So it's up to us as people to to try a bit harder as residents and as the council to try and improve our recycling that goes through the system. So, but anyway, once it's gone through the system, it's baled and then it's sent on for markets, and then the recycling it becomes a commodity. We also do garden waste, and our garden waste goes to a composting facility at Little Bushy Warren near Alton, and it sits in these windrow, you might be able to see on the picture, these like channels, and it's it's turned over, and then they turn it back into compost, which they sell at the household waste recycling centres. Okay, I think that is about me, but one bit of good news before I run out of time is we know as a council that we can only recycle a very limited amount of things at the moment, but there is good news on the horizon. There are facilities being invested in, which haven't been built yet, but there is new facilities on the horizon for Southampton and Hampshire that will mean that we do offer a wider range of things that that you can recycle. This will include pots, tubs and trays and foil, but at the moment, I'm afraid, even though it's not brilliant, is we can only recycle those 6 items. And what I'd also like to say to you is that there is a household waste and fly tipping policy consultation on our website at the moment, which closes on the 14th of the 12th. So any waste issues, comments, any ideas, whatever you'd like to say can be put in that, and we will capture that and have a look and see if we can you know, we can gather your ideas and see what you want to make it better for you all. But also the other thing I'd like to say is, if I can urge you, if you have got problems with your waste, please can you report them through the right channels through the council, because if you don't report them through the right channels, we don't know that there's a problem. If you just tell someone your bin hasn't been emptied and it hasn't been recorded on the customer service portal that then comes through to waste operations, we don't know that it hasn't been done, and then you won't probably get it fixed because we don't know. And obviously, if it's happening all the time, if you're reporting it, you know, every week saying there's a problem, then we can see there's a problem and investigate even further. So thanks for listening. Sorry it was a bit rambled. Waste is a very emotive subject.
You're very passionate about this, Linda, and I think probably one of the things that we can pick up with the tenant engagement team is how we can make sure, as your team is now developing, how you can engage with our tenant reps groups and get all of that information out to a much wider audience. But as everyone on the call can see, Linda, we know you're massively passionate about this and want to make a difference. Now, we're really lucky. David has managed to finally join us. Welcome, David. I think you're on the call. So we're going to whiz back in time, pretend that we didn't miss that slot. David, we are running a little bit behind time. So if you're able to make up a few minutes for us, please do your best. But please, David, introduce yourself to those on the call. And thank you very much for keeping it in there and keeping going with getting that laptop working this evening.
Well, thank you. First of all, just like to apologise to everybody, but the laptop did decide to upgrade just at the wrong moment. So we're having a few technology issues. But going back in time, I didn't think I'd be doing that tonight. So I will go through this a little quicker than I normally would. So I was asked to give an update on what asset management are doing, and effectively I'm titled the presentation, "What do we do all day?" But first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm David Hockaday. I'm a building surveyor. I'm the interim stock condition and data manager, and I work under Ola and Tina. And I've been with Southampton for about 14 months now. So if I could take the next slide, please. So the asset management team, we do quite a bit, and a lot of it, most of it is in the background, and we support housing operations and our project management team. But most of all, we manage the assets, or my particular team manage the domestic assets, or your homes, around about 19,000 homes across the city. But one thing I would like to talk about tonight is that we are creating an asset management group. Ola has made the first steps, and we're looking for 4 or 5 people or residents to join that group, and really that will be the working group that decide on the direction of our investments going forward and how we manage our property. So I've started that process with Michael, and if there's any willing volunteers, please contact one of the resident team and let's have your name, and that would be really helpful. I particularly and my team spend a lot of time planning for the future investment. We look at the property portfolio in one of 3 bands, a sort of short-term 5-year band, then projecting that into the medium term, which is about 15 to 20 years. But we've actually got an investment program that runs over 40 years, and that's quite a substantial investment in our homes. So we're very much looking to plan what the future demand in terms of the maintenance, in terms of upgrading the properties. And to help us do that, we collect a lot of survey data. So I have 3 members of staff that spend a lot of time doing what they call stock condition surveys. And what we're trying to establish there is what the system is telling us in terms of our stock condition. And we go out and test that data to make sure it's accurate. And one of the key things, especially post-Grenfell, there's a lot of emphasis on ensuring your homes are safe. And that is in terms of fire safety, could be Legionella, and electrically safe, and that's quite an involving area for us, and we've really started to monitor that really closely. But probably one of the key ones that we're currently looking at is improving the energy performance of your homes, and I'll talk about that through the presentation. So next slide, please. So what are our investment plans over the short term? So this is between 2022 2025. And the sums on there are per year over that period. So in terms of loft insulation, we're investing £1.3 million, doors and windows 2.5 million, 5 million on external wall insulation, that's effectively wrapping the home up, and £3.6 million in space heating, and that's also electrical and the gas element, and all of that added together is about just short of an £8 million investment this year and for the following 3 years. So why is data really important to us? What we want to do, ideally, we should, in terms of the money that we spend on repairing, investing in our properties, we look for somewhere around a 70 to 80% on planned investment. So that means it reaches its life cycle. And what Mark and his team do down at Housing Operations is they also are responsible for that reactive element as well. So we're looking to move our spend more from reactive, more into our planned investment portfolio. And this describes our gas boilers. So effectively, we know our gas boilers are aging, and that was identified about 2 years ago. And we've moved what we spend from our reactive budget into our planned maintenance budget. And currently we only spend, or last year we spent 53% of our money on planned investment, i.e. replacing gas boilers, and 47% on reactive maintenance, i.e. it's broken down and we need to send a gas engineer out to fix it. Now, if we can move more to that 70-30 split, that means that that gap is the investment gap, and that would account for somewhere around 200 extra gas boilers a year. And just to let you know, because we identified this gap, we doubled the investment on our gas boiler replacement program. So last year we were spending about £500,000. This year we're investing £1 million and looking to progress that forward until we reach this 70-30 reactive split. And it is money well invested. So moving on to improving energy performance, I know that's key for everybody. Well, I think we're all feeling that the cost of energy, but that also sits alongside both Southampton and the government's aspirations to decarbonise our domestic heating, which is a substantial part of the carbon that the UK produces in space heating. We're very aware of the increasing cost of energy and the affordability. So not only that's the two elements, it's that it costs extra, but again, it's also about that affordability. And it's a long journey to a low growth economy. The government are looking for us to completely be carbon neutral by 2040, 2050. And the government also set a target of all domestic housing stock, including social housing and the private rented sector, of achieving C by about 2030 and 2035. So next slide, please. So what does that mean? So effectively, Southampton are in a relatively good relatively good place compared to other authorities. We have 50% of our housing stock either as A, B or C. Remember, C is the government target. We have 34% in D, and then from E to G, we only have 16% of our housing stock. And at the very lowest performing properties, we have about 275 properties that have the poorest energy rating. So why is that rating so important? That tells us how efficient the home is. Like your car, how efficient is the car? How efficient is your home? How much energy do you need to put into your home to reach that, a degree of thermal comfort? And to give you some idea, as of March 31st this year, using EPC as the data point, if you live in an A, a B or a C property, you are probably paying, in terms of space heating, around £1,000 a year to heat your home. If you're in a G-rated property, that's going to cost you an extra £2,000 a year. So nearly 3 times the cost between A, B and C and a category G property. And to give you some idea of where we are, if you look at the bottom, the average SAP rating, that's how they measure the energy performance, and then they drop it into a band, is currently 60 as an average across Southampton stock. Clearly, we want to get to the midpoint of C, and if you were a new building, you can see on the bottom, that's what it would be. It would be a SAP rating of 54. So we still got some work to do, but it is very achievable. Next slide, please. So the marginal cost attainment curve sounds really complicated, and I'll try and make it really simple. So effectively what we're looking at is each one of these is an intervention. So you can insulate a hot water cylinder, put in loft insulation, high retention heating systems, and replacement of gas boilers. So under phase 1, we're looking at that particular group. What we're looking for is the low and the widest. So the lowest in height and the widest in column width. So you can see that the best value, and that's why we're investing £1.3 million in our loft insulation program, is probably the best money that we will invest in supporting the energy efficiency of our homes. And very popular, of course, is PV. Everybody thinks that's the solution. Unfortunately, that's a very costly solution, and it's only right for those that homes we cannot treat in a different way. So each one of those is an intervention, and we believe most of the D-rated properties, one of those interventions will move it into a C and a B property band. Next slide, please. So what we're doing, as I stated earlier on, we reviewed the capital programme last year and decided, because of the increasing costs of energy, that we would invest more on our energy side of the investment programme. And as I stated earlier on, that's around £7.8 million. We're also seeking government support to allow us to upgrade our properties. And the current government scheme is the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, and that's £3.4 billion available. And we're currently in the second wave of that. And I'm really pleased that for the first time we received grant funding this year of £300,000, and that supported the space heating or electrical space heating upgrade of 73 properties, which wouldn't have been completed this year. So that's some direct benefit from that government fund. And we've also investing in our EPC, so we have more accurate data, and we've also purchased some software that allows us to model those interventions and the impact that has on the property estate. Next slide, please. So the future will continue to invest in your homes. Some of you may think it's a little bit odd that we're still investing in gas boilers, but the gas boilers that we're removing are somewhere between 20 to 35 years old, and they are G-rated gas boilers. The boilers that we're putting in now are rated as A efficiency, and they're nearly 30 to 40% more efficient than the old gas boilers. But by 2035, we will need to find a new space heating system, which would be likely to be electrically based. We don't want to currently start to invest in some really new technologies at the moment. We want to invest in proven technologies, and the industry are working really hard at the moment to find domestic heating solutions that, one, are affordable, and two, residents can use. Some of the systems are very complicated. We're also looking to invest in renewable technologies where it's appropriate and where it's cost effective. And we work very hard with our energy team to create a joint vision on, one, how we improve the energy performance of our portfolio, and two, on that decarbonisation strategy, removing carbon from our domestic housing estate. And hopefully that's it.
Brilliant, David. Thank you very much indeed. And I do think it's really important that we give updates on how we're doing over at future conferences. So David, thank you very much. So we're moving swiftly on. Colleagues and participants, I've put in the chat that we are running a little bit behind time. But these are such important items, I'd hate to miss any of them out. So I hope you won't mind. We'll continue with the items on the agenda, and I'm going to pass over now to Claire Higgins, who's one of our homelessness prevention officers, a senior homelessness prevention officer. He's going to take you through some information about how you can support yourselves and your family during what is a very, very difficult time for us all in terms of cost of living crisis. So Claire, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'm not going to not take too much of your time because I know we're running behind. I'm from the Welfare Rights and Money Advice team, and this evening I just want to talk to you about who we are, what we do, and also to talk to you about some of the cost of living payments that are being made at the moment. So we give advice to tenants on all aspects of money, welfare benefits. We're part of housing needs and welfare support. And our main objective really is to prevent people from becoming homeless due to maybe debt problems that they've got. Obviously, we want to stabilise their financial situation, make sure that they're getting everything they're entitled to. And we do that through a number of roles that we have: our benefits, money, debt advice. We have publicity. There's information on the City Council website. There's a benefit toolkit, a debt toolkit. We also have a hard copy debt self-help pack that people can request a copy of. And we help to put articles into the tenants link as well, so you may well have seen them there. So obviously providing that in-depth money advice to tenants is really important. People can refer themselves to our team, or they can be referred by other staff within the City Council, maybe an external organisation. Just to give you an idea of the types of things and how we can support people. So during 2021, we supported our clients to find solutions to their debt problems, which enabled them obviously to get their finances back on track. So that resulted in over £278,000 of debts being written off by their creditors. Lots of solutions we look at, including insolvency, and we can help with that. The benefits advice that we give is to residents. We generally will help with completion of the more complex claim forms, so the disability claim forms. And we also assist people right through to representation at social security appeal tribunals if we need to, if we've been helping them with those disability claims. So again, during 2021, we helped residents claim over £974,000, which was previously unclaimed welfare benefits. Obviously, at the moment, people are really struggling with obviously the increases in the energy bills, food and fuel, and the government are making payments to help support people with these additional costs. There was an additional payment that went out earlier in the year, £150, which was paid by the council, but through the council tax rebate system. There's also £400 at the moment being taken off people's electricity and gas bills. As long as you are paying either electricity bill or gas bill, you'll have this paid to you. You'll see it as a discount, and this should have already started. So it should have started in October. and this will go through to March. People who've got a prepayment meter, the money will be applied to your meter or paid via a voucher. And I did see something this morning that said a lot of people haven't had these vouchers through yet, haven't heard from. It's from your energy supplier. So if you haven't had this voucher through, or you haven't had the discount put onto your bill to enable you to make use of these payments, it is important that you contact your energy suppliers. They may not have your most up-to-date details. It's often that they're sending text, email, might write to you, but do get in touch with them because it's important that you get this. There's also some cost of living payments that are being paid to people on means tested benefits. A total of £650 will be paid. The first payment went out in July, and the second payment is actually being paid at the moment. So between the 8th of November and the 23rd, you should receive that second payment, unless you're on tax credits, and that will be between the 23rd and 30th of November. So do look out for that and make sure that you get it. There is eligibility criteria around that. So if you haven't got it, do check on the government website to see whether or not you actually are eligible. There's also a pensioner cost of living payment, and this is paid to all people who are state pension age and receive the winter fuel payment. So this year there will be an additional £300, and that will start to be paid from November. And this is paid on top of any of the other support that you might get if you're on pension credit or disability benefits. So listed just below is the people that would have had a payment if they're getting disability payments, and that would have been made into people's bank account in September. Next slide, please. There is lots of other support available. I'm going to go through just a few bits here, but there's lots of information on the City Council website. If you look on the main page of the website, you'll see cost of living information. Do go there and have a look. There are lots of sources of information out there. I'm sure you've probably looked at them. And I do think Martin Lewis website is a really good source of information as well, worth looking at that. So there's the Warm Home discount. Oh, can we just go back slightly? Yeah, the Warm Home discount, that's £150. Go and have a look and see whether or not you'd be eligible for that. If you need any help with that, the Environment Centre can help. There's a cold weather payment that goes out, but to be honest with you, it's very rare because the temperature has to fall below 0 degrees Celsius for 7 consecutive days. So it's quite rare to get that one. There's also a grant that are available from British Gas Energy Trust. You don't have to be have British Gas as your energy supplier. You can apply, but again, check the eligibility. You might need to get some advice as part of that application for the grant. And the last one is if you're struggling with water bills, it really is worth going onto the Southern Water website and having a look, because they have a number of discounts and tariffs, and they've actually increased one of their discounts quite recently from 20% to 40%, and that's for people who have got incomes of less than 21,000 a year. So it really is important to go and have a look at that. They also have some schemes to help people who have got some arrears of water. You might be able to get eligible for that. It's called New Start. So yeah, as I say, it's really important to go and have a look. So we know people are really struggling out there at the moment. People are really starting to, feel that they're even getting into debt. They might be borrowing money. They may have had debts from the past, which they're now struggling to pay. So it is important that people don't ignore this. Try and get help from ourselves. We can see people fairly quickly. We can help you through this process. I'm just going to go through some of the things that we will help you look at. Could you just go to the next slide, please? So what we will do is, the big thing is to make sure that you are getting all the benefits, and you may think that you are, but quite honestly, we come across a lot of people who are missing out when they're on universal credit. There's different elements that maybe aren't correct. They might be entitled to additional ones which aren't in there. So there's lots of things that we can help with. We might be able to help if you're getting payments taken out, deductions taken out of your benefits to get those reduced. So we, like I say, and looking at anything else that you might be entitled to. one of the first things we need to look at is looking at what you've got coming in, what you've got going out. This will help you to focus on what your financial position is and what can you afford. And I think at the moment that we're seeing so many people that just do not have the income to pay their main bills, which is really worrying. But obviously we need to look at then trying to help them increase their income as much as possible to see if we can help with that. We will then help people to negotiate realistic repayments on their behalf, and like I say, they need to be realistic so that people can afford them. So normally our advice can bring about a reduction in somebody's weekly outgoings, and that can often lead to less stress about their debts, because it is really stressful for people when they've got debts and they don't know really which way to turn, who they should be paying, who they shouldn't, and what the repercussions are of not paying those debts. So it is really important, like I say again, to contact us. In the majority of the cases, our intervention can prevent someone from becoming homeless, which, like I say, is one of our main objectives. So checking benefit entitlement, you can do this yourselves. There really is millions of pounds that go unclaimed every year, so it is important to have a check. We've got the benefits toolkit that you can have a look just to get an idea of what benefits are out there. Then you can go on to a website called Entitled To, and the site is just at the bottom there. Go in there, put in all your details, and that will be able to assess whether or not you're entitled to anything. But if you're not sure, just give us a call, send us an email, and we'll contact you back just to talk you through that. Next slide, please. So very quickly, I know we're running out of time and I don't want to take anything more, but there are some additional benefits. These are some of the main ones. So if we could just go through these quickly. Universal credit, I'm not going to go through all the information because I know the slides will be given and the presentations will be going out to everybody. So if we could just move on to the next one. Yep, and the one after that. Council tax, help with council tax is a big one to look out for. We come across so many people that are not getting help with council tax reduction, and that will obviously bring their bills down. So it is, again, like I say, really important you check that one. And pension credit is another one. Can we just move on to the next slide, please? For people to check to see whether or not they're eligible for any payments under the pension credit. There are a number of additional things that this will entitle them to. And if we could just go to the next slide for this. So there's a number of things. If you get pension credit, you get the guarantee credit, you'll get full housing benefit, full council tax reduction, free TV license if you're over 75, you'll get the warm home discount, the cold weather payments, free dental treatment, voucher for glasses, contact lenses. So yeah, there's a lot of pluses to getting pension credit. So it's very easy process. You just need to give them a call and they'll go through the form with you over the phone, but you can download it as well. So if you do need to contact us, our details are there, telephone number, our email address, and like I say, the address to go for the cost of living, but you'll see it's on the main page of the City Council website. So any questions, please put them in the chat and I will try and respond to them as soon as possible. And thank you very much for listening. I know it's been a very brief, quick overview, but hopefully you'll get the slides and you'll be able to see a bit more information on those. Thank you.
That's fantastic. I think the key message is really don't assume that you're not entitled to anything, check. And I think one of the things is also your team are constantly monitoring the changes, aren't you? So the benefits of contacting you are that you've got the most up-to-date information. So even, even if we think we know, let's talk to Claire and her team and they can help us and confirm whether or not we're right. So thank you again, Claire, really, really helpful. And I didn't want to miss that because I think it's it's the #1 topic of the day, isn't it? So thanks to you and your team for all the work that you're doing to help our tenants and our residents across the city. So I want to quickly pass over to Steve. Steve just wants to say a few words to the conference and over to you then, Steve.
Thank you. I've just got two very quick things to say and my 3 minutes has been reduced to 2, so it will be quick. The first one is that I want to say a big thank you to Mary. Mary joined, as you know, on the day that COVID broke. She's blamed me ever since for every international event that happens. as I've had leave and then come back to the Afghan situation, had leave and then come back to the Ukraine situation. So I can only blame Mary for starting off on the COVID work. She's been with us just under 3 years and she leaves at the end of December. She's been a fantastic executive director, really supportive to me and to other managers, I know that. But it's been a great leader and will be really missed, I think, by staff and by tenants. And I just wanted to say thank you publicly, Mary. The other thing I want to say, as well as just letting you know that I received my winter fuel payment from the government, which probably gives away my age. I wanted to just say that I'm also leaving. I'm retiring at the end of February. I've only done 48 years, so it's a shame I couldn't quite make the 50. But I wanted to say my best times have been working with tenants, and I still love that, going out with tenants, meeting you on site or coming along to meetings. And I'm happy to come along to any meeting that you want me to between now and the end of February. It's been great working with you. I'm still around for 4 months and hope to see lots of you in that time. Thank you.
I told Steve he only had 2 minutes. I didn't realise he was going to say that, so I might have told him he didn't have any time. But Steve, thank you very much. And I would just like to say back to you, it has been fantastic working with you. And one of the things I know many of the people on the call in the conference will want to do is to take that opportunity to meet with you over the coming months again, Steve, and say thank you. I know each of the conferences I've been to in person, you've been grabbed by people in the room who want to have a conversation, and everybody knows Steve. So thank you, Steve. Really appreciate everything that you've done. And I am planning to come back for Steve's leaving drinks in February, so it'll be an opportunity for me to see him then as well. So another person who would like to just say hello to the team is, and hello to everyone on the conference, is Francesca. Francesca has recently joined us as one of our engagement managers. So Francesca, would you want to, you've managed to get in, you've had more IT problems as well today, but please do say hello to the conference.
Thank you. So really it was just a quick introduction. So some of you will know me from my work with the employment support team. I'm still there, I haven't left. So I'm doing the employment support team on a part-time basis, but also I'm delighted to be covering for Sean as the interim community engagement manager. So just wanted to pop along, say hello. I know most of you will have seen me at the face-to-face conferences, but it's been lovely to listen to all of the hard work and everything that's been happening. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Jessica, thank you very much. And I know that you will do everything you can to get around and about to see people over the coming months. So last time, if you recall, I did really badly on the Zoom polling. I managed to bring the Zoom poll down before many people had had a chance to actually enter into it. So this time, Lexa is going to put the poll on the screen, and I'm going to be really patient and make sure that there's enough time for everybody to click on the poll. So there it is. So we'd like you please to answer each question and scroll down on the right hand side before you click on end poll at the end. So if you carry on. I hope everybody is managing to click in their answers. Oh, I can see lots of lines coming up. It's great to see.
Sorry.
I've just had a security guard come into the room, but it's okay. I'm still allowed to say. I can still see some answers coming through, so I'm not gonna jump just yet. I'm pleased to see lots of just right on the length, even though we've overrun. So that's really good to see. Thank you very much. Still got a few more people that haven't polled, so I'm going to leave. We've got 72, 75%, so that's great. We've got a few more answers. Lepsa, I've learned how to do this finally, just before I go. So this is great. We're on 88%, so there's still a few more people to poll. I'd like to get it over 90% if possible. but maybe some people are struggling. The IT has been a bit of a problem for some people this evening. So I don't think there's anybody else who seems to be clicking in at the moment. So I'm going to end the poll there. So Lexa, do you want to share the results? So is this the final version, Lexa?
Yes, Mary, that's the result.
Okay. Brilliant. So really good to see that the majority of people felt that, you know, today's conference was worthwhile coming, that it's good or very good, certainly satisfactory. In terms of the length of the conference, I'm really pleased that even though we've overrun, most of you have rated it as just right, which is fantastic. I can see a real range on the presentations that people have found useful, but Claire, your presentation has just pipped it at the post, and I have to say I'm not surprised, and I do hope that people will get in touch with you if they want some more information. So Lexa, shall we stop sharing that now? So finally, everybody, Steve has already told you my news that I'm actually leaving just before Christmas. There's been changes to the structures within the City Council, and as a consequence, my job is not going to be in place going forward. And we will be joined in the new year by a new exec director for adult social care and housing, and her name is Claire. And Claire is coming to Southampton later on in November and hopes to meet some of the team. And I'm sure Claire will want to come out and meet as many of you as quickly as she can. She's due to join us on the 3rd of January. It's been a very strange place to work in terms of the first 2 years being during COVID, and I met many of you for the first time on Zoom. But I'm so pleased. I also got to meet so many of you in person over the last couple of years, and I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you. You are an inspiration, and the two conferences, the summer conferences that you have hosted and I've been able to be part of, will be memories that I will take with me into the next phase of my career. So I just want to say thank you. It's been an absolute privilege to work with Steve and the team, but more than anything to work for you, the tenants of Southampton City Council. I know that you will welcome Claire when she comes in the new year, and that you will keep Steve's diary absolutely jam-packed until he goes on the 20-something of February. Steve lives and breathes housing in Southampton, and I suspect he will still be somewhere in the background even after he has gone. And I know that he's still got he's waiting for his allotment, and until he gets his allotment, he's going to have to keep busy somehow. So there'll be some people he'll be talking to. Feeling quite emotional now. So thank you very much, everybody. And thank you very much to all of our speakers today. You've been fantastic. We will share the video, we will share the slides, and we will do absolutely everything we can to get full answers to you all on the questions you put in the chat. So we have kept it to just over 7:30. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening, and hopefully I may see some of you before now and Christmas. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.